Let me start with last night, seeing it was the most recent, and it was the one I've seen. I haven't yet seen the first one, but I will be watching it. The education number. You suggested that you went into this a little sceptically, but came out less sceptical, would be a fair way to put it.
That would.
Were you happy that the program presented I've never liked the word fair, but a view of the system and how it's working across the board, as opposed to just a couple of selected schools that seemed to be doing quite well?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard in 42 minutes of TV to represent everything that's happening across schools. And so I think what we tried to do with talking to people like John Hattie and some of the other kind of academics is talk about what does the research actually show about how we're doing. And the point of the two schools was kind of to illustrate that stuff working well. And one of the hard things is that most of these interviews are 2 hours long. So the hardest bit for us is what to put in. John Hattie said this really interesting thing. He said that within New Zealand...
John Hattie being, for those who didn't...
John Hattie is the academic who's done the enormous study of 250 million kids in school to find what are the things that makes a difference in learning and what don't. So what are the things that we should worry about and what are the things that we shouldn't really worry about. So John Hattie said that within New Zealand there's more variation within schools than there are between schools. So the big picture for us as a country is that across the board, we have a pretty good education system. There'll be much more variation in the quality of education within a school than there is between schools. It's a pretty good thing.
All right. The kids that you had on, I'm guessing would have been. This is not a criticism; it's just an analysis. I'm guessing they would have been selected because they were good front folk.
No. We literally just. We actually chose Pakuranga College because we thought, well, it's a Decile 8 school, it's co-ed, they're doing NCA, that seemed like a good school to choose. I'd heard a couple of things about pointing in the school, but not very much. We literally just turned up on the day and met the principal and said, right, we'd like to sit in on classes, and they said, fine, tell us what you want to do. So, no, we didn't audition kids, we just rocked on up to classes and saw what was happening.
But do you think that the principals might have chosen the better classes or the better kids in advance? Which ones they were going to take you to?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's always possible. In a school, you've always got a range of kids, from the academically gifted.
You want to put your
right
best
throughout.
foot forward if you're a principal.
Yeah, but in the design class that we went to, which was where they're working on computers and building stuff, that one class had their full range of kids, from their most academically gifted kid in the school right down to some of the boys who would be going on to trade apprenticeships and all that kind of stuff.
I enjoyed that bit.
It was watching it was incredible because I kept thinking about the pencil case that I built in woodwork in school, and I thought, did that teach me useful skills for life? Well, kind of. But it literally was like working into an office. And I thought, these kids are learning about how the world works. It's about having a project and having a client and getting a briefing and developing a plan. And we couldn't even show all the stuff. They had project management software they were using to manage their timelines. It was amazing. It was very impressive.
By the way, what's the purpose of the programs?
Well, really, it's just it's picking 6 issues that I think are important, and just having a look to see what's going on. Is there a problem? Is there not? Are there solutions? Are there not?
What are the other 4?
So I'm pretty sure next week is alcohol, and then we're looking.
Should have come to my place.
You watch the alcohol every day. Then we're doing looking at child abuse and neglect, prisons, because everybody thinks the answer is getting tough on crime, and the final episode is looking at sugar and obesity and diabetes.
All right, all interesting, all relevant, and all things that we would want to see. There was a noticeable absence from the program last night. You went from class to class, subject to subject. Didn't see anything on history, which to me is only marginally below maths and English.
Yeah. That's true, but we also didn't see biology and economics and business. I mean, it's that issue of you've got 42 minutes. There's an amount of stuff you can show, and there's an amount of stuff that you can't.
But history is this is why why I'm interested. To me, history is one of the core topics. We don't teach it well. It is not compulsory. I've forgotten now where they do a bit of this and a bit of that, but it's not really a topic as it used to be, as I got taught it, as it should be. And I think it's an incredibly important part of a curriculum for a kid to grow up with. And I don't care where they're from. And I think that New Zealand history isn't taught well enough, as well as other history. So that intrigued me, and I can't help but feel that. Well, I think there's something political in not teaching history properly.
Really? What's that?
Well, if you don't know where you came from, if you don't know the background to things, it's very easy to indoctrinate you, and I choose that word advisedly, but indoctrinate you or open you up to new things over which you have no idea on how they'll work. You don't know whether they've been tried before in the past. You can't base them on anything, and you just accept them.
Mm. Well, I mean, it's true. We didn't go into a history class as we made that show, but my guess would be that if we went into history classes, that we would see that there are passionate teachers. I mean, there was the stuff on the news a little while ago about, was it Ariba College or someone, like they built a World War I trench and they had kids doing that sort of stuff. Like, there are lots of teachers out there doing lots of really good things. It's invariably when you make a show about I mean, I've had emails saying, why didn't you talk about early childhood stuff? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? It's 40 minutes. We did as much as we could.
Hang on, it shrunk. It was 42 a moment ago.
Oh, 42 minutes.
Yeah.
What is it? 7.5 times 5. What's that?
It's
we need a 9-year-old with maths strategy.
42 and a half.
See, I'm still doing multiplication long ways.
Yeah, 42 and a half. How did before we leave this behind, how did the maths affect you?
I sat in those maths classes with those kids who were enjoying maths, and I thought, I actually felt a bit cheated because I hated maths in school. I didn't really understand it because it was the old maths. It was, there is one way of getting to the answer, and if you couldn't understand how to go that one way, then I just got bored and gave up. It was only later in life that I discovered actually maths is phenomenally interesting. It's just the way that it was taught to me, it made it really dull. I was watching kids solve really complicated maths problems using their strategy stuff that, you know, I would have been reaching for my phone so I could use the calculator. I was really impressed. I think the strategy's based on...
Okay, so why is it that so many kids now, you go into a shop and there's a young person serving there and they can't add up 2 items?
Yeah, but I think there are lots of kids actually who are much better at maths and who are much more interested in maths. I think if you go into a maths class, say now, and took a survey and said, are you interested in maths, is it fun? And then you go back to when we were at school and ask kids, are you interested in maths, is it fun? Big differences, I think.
I'm with you. I didn't enjoy maths. I was miserable at maths. I failed it more than I passed it. But I learnt the basics. And I made sure that my kids learnt the basics. They knew their times table from the get-go because I rammed it into them. And there's plenty of kids who don't get taught that anymore, which is why I suggest they can't add up 2 items in a
That's true, but I mean, my 11-year-old is better at more complicated math stuff than I am because he does strategies in his head and gets the answer quicker.
That's an interesting point because having discussed this on the program before, maths teaching, I've heard from a couple of parents whose one in particular I can recall, whose son was a maths genius by the sound of it, but didn't do well in maths as far as the school was concerned because couldn't explain how he got couldn't put down how he got the answer, but came up with the answer with a snap of fingers. So the process still has something to do with it.
Yeah, it does, and modern maths teaching is all about process, and that's the important thing. It's like we don't live in a world where there's always going to be one solution to a problem. There are lots of problems. The world is changing rapidly all the time. So what we actually need kids to be able to do is to apply multiple different solutions to a problem, to be able to think about stuff rather than just work a formula. Because if your formula doesn't work, you're buggered. If you have a strategies-based approach to the world, then you can do different things.